Okay. Welcome to the October 24th, 2019 meeting, special meeting of the Granada Community Services District. The purpose of this meeting is, as you can see, all the preparation that's gone into this is to complete another step on the planning to turn our street frontage out between the highway and Obispo Road into what will become Burnham Park and can become a great community asset. So a lot of work has gone into this, and the GCSD board has been involved. Our two board members who have been the ad hoc committee to work with our Parks Advisory Committee have been Director Barbara Dye and Director David Seaton. Back there. And I want to thank them for their work, and everyone on the Parks Advisory Committee, and particularly, as well as Claudia Marshall, who is our Parks and Rec Coordinator. And I especially want to point out Nancy Marsh, who's done a tremendous amount of work as both on the PAC and on getting this whole meeting organized. And thank you, Nancy. And I want to mention two things. One is that when the evening is over, we're not going to walk out of here with final plans for anything. This is a step. We will be doing more public input, and so watch your information sources for when you can be next involved. And the other is that you should look at the maps and realize where the Caltrans right-of-way is, right next to the district property, and we're not addressing any issues that have to do with anything with Caltrans, like crossings for Highway 1. And with that, I will turn this over to Barbara Dye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just was going to take 1 minute to address something that's come up quite a lot, which is the funding for all this. Granada Community Services District converted from being a sanitary district 5 years ago with a vote of the community. Thank you very much. It's due to kind of a quirk in Prop 13. When they were proposing Prop 13, a lot of cities and school districts and so forth said, but we don't want to lose any property tax. So part of Prop 13 said that if you were taxing yourself at a certain rate when it passed, you got to keep that money. That's why some school districts get so much more in property tax than others. And in fact, the Granada Sanitary District was taxing itself for sewer services. So we still get a chunk, about $800,000 a year of property tax money. They have talked about taking that away. The state wants most of these, this kind of fee-for-service thing to be funded by fees that people pay for the service that they're going to get. So that's one of the thinking behind the conversion to a community services district, because we could keep this money here in El Granada and use it to make our community better. So the costs for all this, we've been putting $400,000 aside a year since it started, and we have about $1 million right now saved up. We can also, this is going most likely, this should be a steady revenue source for the future, so we will have funding to maintain any parks we build. So it's not going to cost you any extra money to build this park and make the front yard of El Granada a more beautiful place. So I thought it might be helpful for people to hear that and realize that there is some solid financing behind the proposals that we're doing. One other comment that I just wanted to say, which is that there are a few things that were in the survey that we are generally, I think, pretty supportive of, but that just didn't lend themselves to mapping. So like art and benches. We know we're going to have benches. There was a lot of support for art. The reason they're not on your map and your opportunity to choose is because we'll figure out where they go later. So have fun. I think this is going to be a great process. I want to thank David Seaton for really being the driving force behind making this workshop happen. And again, I want to thank Nancy and all the members of the Parks Advisory Committee who worked so hard to make tonight a reality. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to just do a real quick review of what we're going to ask you to do. And the reason I'm doing that now, because you each have a facilitator, I'll introduce the members of the Parks Advisory Committee. Fran Pollard is here, and we've introduced Claudia, who's our Recreation Coordinator on staff at GCSD. Pat Tierney is a charter member of the Parks Advisory Committee and current Vice Chair. Michelle Dragney is a member of the committee, and Paul, there you are, Paul Kolsch, are all members of the Parks Advisory Committee. I did say Fran, I did. They are volunteers. They are appointed by the board for 2-year terms, and provide input to the board and advice, and become worker bees when we have an event like this. So what we're going to ask you to do in these groups, we have 3 steps. The first is, there's a big chart in front of you which has all the features that were in the survey that we recently completed, and if you want to have reference, the survey results are on these charts over to my right. Except, as Barbara noted, some that are kind of nebulous, like vegetation area or quiet area, that are hard to map, or that are so small we couldn't see them on the map. But the first thing you're going to do as a group is prioritize those. Your facilitator will explain how to do that. So that's step 1. Then step 2, you'll actually appoint somebody to be the person with the pencil and draw them in on the map. We have a little chart that tells you how many squares on the map. The squares represent a 20 by 20 foot space. And you draw the number of squares on the map so you get a sense of the scale with where you want to put things. You're going to do it in pencil first and label it so that you can move it around as you move through the different features. You might want to move them so you can erase. We won't put them pen to paper until the very end. And then the third step is we will ask each group to hold up and present their maps. So we're filming, and this will be on Pacific TV and Channel 27, like all the district meetings. And all of those maps, and it would be interesting to see the convergence or divergence between the groups on what's there and where it is, but all those maps will feed into the next stage of planning for the park. And I will just reiterate, which will also then have a community view of the next stage, and we'll be doing more outreach. This is the first time we've done a workshop like this, so please be kind to your volunteer facilitators. Most of them haven't done this before, so we'll work as a community and get through it together. Since you're going to be mapping, one of the most important things that you need to understand is the topography and some of the land features of the park. So we're joined by Steve Kikuchi from Kikuchi and Kankel, who did our initial concept drawings last year and is the master of the constraints map. So we've got about 15 to 20 minutes. So Steve, if you want to review it, we might have time for questions as well.
Great, thank you everybody. It's always very difficult to design an entire park on a map in a limited amount of time if you've never done it before. It's something that I've been doing for...
This is directional, so you have...
It's something I've been doing for a great amount of time, so I know the challenges that are facing you here. But one of the things that we look at on every project are the constraints, the physical constraints, the natural constraints, constraints that are caused by human interaction as well. So hopefully, by identifying some of these constraints, you will have the ability to make some decisions as to where the placement is best for some of these items. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to help influence you as to where some of these items might be. Some of the natural constraints are, there's a constant northwesterly breeze that comes across. Once again, here's Surfers Beach down here, here's El Granada up here, Highway 1 over here. There is a constant northwesterly breeze that comes across from the ocean. That is what you all probably experience every summer. It's usually coming from the northwest. There are days when it doesn't come from that immediate direction. But that's something to keep into consideration as to where you place things, where you might want to have an area that's more protected from that breeze, how you might want to build a wall or something so people can get relief from that breeze. Another aspect is the sun. The sun generally rises in this direction comes across and sets to the west. In the wintertime, the sun rises at a lower elevation, takes a much lower arc, and settles even further to the west. So just keep that in mind, that the sun is not something that's consistent throughout the year. Like right now, we're in fall, the sun is very low, you're getting a lot more lower sunlight exposure. Usually it's colder, today it isn't. So just keep that in consideration. Something to keep in consideration, but probably not that much, is where the storm winds come from. Generally, most of the storms swirl around in the Pacific, and the strongest winds come from the southwest. They come barreling in from the southwest. Most people are not going to be using the park during a stormy condition, but just keep that in mind. Some of the physical constraints, some of the physical features that are of interest is the topography across the entire property from the northernmost down to the parking lot. There's about, I think, about a 20-foot change in elevation across there. It may not seem like that, but 20 feet is almost the height of a two-story building, so just keep that in mind. There are a couple of drainage channels that cut across. There's one drainage channel that cuts right through the middle off of Avenue Portola. There's a smaller one that's further to the north. Whether or not those remain is up to a determination. We are not absolutely sure if those are going to remain or not. There's this whole area to the south where the vegetation is. It's classified as a riparian area. Riparian area means that we cannot develop anything on it. It means it's protected by wetlands regulations. Generally, it means that we can't build anything within 50 feet of the edge of the riparian. But because there has already been some impacts done within 50 feet, there may be some exceptions that we can apply for. Some other things to think about is the human impacts, such as traffic. Highway 1, this red dashed line here, generates not only a danger or a hazard for people who are crossing it, but it also generates a lot of noise. And one thing that we discovered when we walked the property is that the further you move away from Highway 1, the sound really does dissipate. And as you get further up in this area, it's a lot more quiet. When you get down to the parking lot, it's very noisy. And a lot of that has to do with the elevation of where you are down here versus up here. When you get up here, you're almost above the noise of the traffic. So keep that in mind if you're thinking of activities that you want to have more quiet. Maybe you want to have them in areas that don't suffer from the noise of the traffic. We also identify great views. So there are some areas where you have views across Surfers Beach to the Pacific Ocean. There's views to the northern part where you actually look all the way down and you can see all the way across the Half Moon Bay area. And there's areas where you have a marvelous view of just the property itself. So keep that in mind too, because the areas where there are the greatest views could be the areas where you want to have maybe activities where people can appreciate those views. We also identify what we call conflicts. So because Coronado has a lot of traffic, not a great amount of traffic, but people are traveling at a high rate of speed, and there is a lot of the need to access this property. There are some conflicts that occur. So keep that in mind. As far as the proximity of the activities to where traffic occurs, you might want to think, well, maybe some activities warrant being closer to where traffic and access is. Some activities can be farther away from those activities. A lot of these other blue lines and dots just represent pedestrian access. This site is highly accessible by pedestrians. There's a lot of trail systems, a lot of the green belts that come down the avenues. The way Burnham originally designed this community, everything, this is the center point, the hub of the wheel. And so a lot of pedestrian access leads to Burnham Strip. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about activities and pedestrian access throughout the property. And I think there are other small little things that you will see on your plan too. There are these black dots that represent the existing sewer manhole access points. So generally in those areas, you want to keep away from building something on top of those. The manholes have to be accessible, but we can't pave over them. For instance, it would probably be not the best to put a sport court on top of them. And then there's another set of dots further to the north, and those represent the future expansion of that system. So keep in mind that while there's nothing there now, there may be something there in the future. There are also, and it's hard to see, but there are some dashed lines cutting through south of this little dry area. There's another one right by the main drainage channel, and another one through here that are actually utility easements. So a utility easement is actually a location where they are running either sewer lines, electrical lines, and we cannot construct anything permanent on top of a utility line. We could put plantings, lawn, possibly soft surface, but a utility company has the right to tear up whatever is on top of that to gain access through utility lines. So keep in mind that if you build something on top of those, it may get torn out at the district's expense. And I think that covers everything. Anybody have any questions? Nope.
Perfect timing, then a little bit more time for group work. So I will hand you over to your table facilitators now, and they will be your guides for the next hour and a half or so. Thanks. We're going to ask each group one at a time to bring their map. We untaped them, except this one, up here so the camera can see it. And you need a member of your group to present your work, just 5 minutes or so. The tape tears the paper, so just fold the tape under. Okay, we have a really special group to start with, so if I can have you give them your attention. We have Gavin and Jasper bringing their map up. They did their voting, they did their mapping, and they did an excellent job. So let's give the young folks our attention.
Okay. Does this need to be constantly held up?
Okay, this is Gavin, so go ahead, Gavin.
Hello, I'm Gavin, and so we've separated the park into about 3 sections. One of them for main exercise area here, and over here, some bocce ball, horseshoe, and also an amphitheater. And over here we have the children's playground and the basketball court.
Good job. You guys did a great job. Okay. Get Gavin and Jasper's name on here. Okay, Fran, your group, can you bring theirs up? Put them over. And who's doing the talking? Oh. Okay. Use the mic, talk right into it.
Okay, does it work now? Oh, okay. Hi. All right, we were the minimalist group who want to do the least. We know that we want to do something. I mean, this is an ugly piece of land and it could do with being some improvement, and we have the money to do it, so we have to move and do something soon. So what we were thinking is keeping the car park area about the same size, maybe a bit smaller than it is now. Not paved, just gravel as it is now. We like the idea of having some bocce courts and maybe horseshoes down in this area with the children's playground and a plaza and perhaps a small amphitheater. We have a nice picture that we can show you just down in this area here, and leave the rest of this area basically as it is, but it will be naturalized. We'll have some wildflowers. We won't just have the awful plants that are growing there now, with a nice running track, with the, with the parcourse, various places around. And this area in particular, the higher area, is to be kept as natural as possible for a meditation area. I think there's some plans to put some different sort of walkways to get out of the wind so that you can sit and relax and read your book or whatever. But leave this and keep this quiet as opposed to this area down here. And picnic, benches, we thought. Benches, picnic tables down this end. So just benches to sit and relax. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Yolanda. Okay, who's doing the talking? Beverly? Oh. Can she sing a song?
Okay, so we're actually still working. I'm Beverly Garrity, and this was a very collaborative effort in our little group here. We're kind of intermediate, active and passive. What we would like to see is, we started with trails, actually, and we finished with trails. So as we did our perimeter trail around the edge here, kind of a meandering perimeter trail, we were looking at the terrain as a source for trails as well, and a way of dividing up the property. One of the things that came up repeatedly and it continues to be massaged is the parking. So we found this existing parking area to be the most logical spot for parking. That has the most. We figured about 30 cars. Then we have an edge parking here for another 22 and a final 20 up here at this end. And the reason we located those where we did was because we put our picnic benches, a collection of 5 family picnic benches, actually. It's not quite a group bench, figuring not 4 benches per square, but more like 1 or 2 to give people plenty of room. If there are private parties, maybe as many as 5 private parties. And then in between the 2 picnic bench areas is a big lawn area where people can just recreate if they want to take out a soccer ball or a frisbee or a kite, or this adds up to quite a bit of square footage. And the bathroom is up there too. That's one of 2 bathrooms. The other bathroom is down here by, in between the 2 riparian sections by this parking, figuring that'll service the beachgoers, bathroom with a shower. The skate park is tucked in by the riparian corridor, close to where it is right now, actually. This is an expansive area, so this is kind of where we got stopped. We're not sure what we'd put here, but it's a lot of area to be determined. This area here is a lot of area to be determined. One of the very most important things we would like to note is that we'd like to celebrate the Burnham Plan. Coming off of Avenue Portola is the hub of the Burnham Plan, where it fans out from here into the rest of El Granada. And so that is a creek, it's a riparian area. There's not a lot you can do in that area, but whatever we do, if it's landscape or bridge or plantings, could be a few things that would be allowed to be close to the riparian area, but to celebrate this as the hub yet again. This is a trail, and the rest is TBD. On the Burnham? Oh, we didn't all agree 100% on everything, actually, but we kind of went with the majority. So there's plenty more tweaking to do. This is just conceptual, and over time, people will be able to voice their individual concerns about the individual items. These are boulders, by the way, I'm sorry. This is Boulder or children's playground. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dan. It was a good reminder. We meant to ask in each group if there was any major areas of dissent. So we can remember that. For the next, Pat, is your group ready to go? Steve's got the tape.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Nate Surdy. I am a realtor here on the coast and lived right there for about 3 years. And it's very intimate to walk across this daily. We're in the center, middle, as you see in the political spectrum here. We did all agree on the same thing. We have 2 business owners in our group, one of Picasso School, so her opinion relied heavily as to what she would like. I think that's important as business owners to incorporate what their surroundings are. We also have another business owner that will be moving in here, so we figured that the existing Burnham Strip plan would be best to keep it as is. From moving south to north, we have the parking lot, remained the size or about the size that it is existing. The idea would be entering from the south and leaving from the north side of the parking lot, so it would be one constant stream. We also believed, most of us, I should say, believes that there should be no parking on Highway 1 due to the safety. And if there's any ways to coordinate with the county to eliminate the possible for someone dying on Highway 1 or getting severely injured, we think that no parking should be here to essentially facilitate them into a safe parking lot with a chance to incorporate and get some income for our county area. We also have a shower and a restroom. A few of us are surfers on the group. We think showers should be next to the beach or closest to the beach and adjacent to a restroom. Skate park existing, definitely. One of the things we did not think that should be there would be the skate ramp should continue to be there. We don't believe a small scale skate park would be ideal, mostly because there's two areas to the south and north, Pacifica and Half Moon Bay, that do have that same sort of skate park. But also, several people from out of the area come, and because of the way that the ramp is built, a lot of professionals come and enjoy how the ramp is already currently existing and believe that it should be a skate ramp only. Avenue Portola, but still there are some businesses here, so we believe that this should be a corridor from the vein all the way down and nothing except sort of lush pathway to the beach. Last minute kind of addition was potentially a stage or picnic area adjacent to that area as well. As you see around, we have a quarter mile. We were told the whole thing is a half mile around, so we did like a quarter mile running path with the spots for fitness around it. And it could be also for like artists, for instance, like little artist alcoves or gardens. I think that one thing could be lost. We decided a half-court basketball or some other, maybe a soccer field. We were told that they can be in between the manholes, so as long as those are the size that fit. Talking to Candace, we agreed a parking lot should be also. I think we agreed on that table. A playground, we agreed on that as well, and another small picnic area too. The rest would be natives and incorporate and keep the view there. Several crosswalks. We all know that people drive like 45, 50 miles per hour down Avenue Alhambra here. There should be definitely more safety concerns on this side. And then I think that's about it. Yep. All right, thanks. Good job, team. Way to go.
Great. Michelle, your game. Matthew just wanted me to make sure that you understood that there are going to be some bathrooms that are being put at Surfers Beach on the west side.
With showers?
With showers, 3. So the top area we left pretty much sort of alone. We have a perimeter trail that goes around. And we knew that, some people might want to be mellow here, chillaxing zone. So they might not want to walk a long way. So we had some parking, kind of like what Jonathan did in his group. He'll show you in a minute. But a little perimeter parking, and we still kept most of the parking from where the jetty people will go. Thinking about the flow, they're going to come in, they're going to park, they're going to want to use the bathroom. We put a shower right here, and then they'll cross the street. Good luck. We can't do anything about that. And then we kept the skate ramp, well, actually moved it from where it is in this picture to where it needs to be. And then we actually put a skate bowl in here. It's a 3x3, just to keep the skating together. Sort of the skating, surfing people right there. And then there's so much room along here, honestly.
we could fit a pump track in here, and there was still some space to go. We put a tot lot in here. It was a 2x3, and then we actually have a little the climbing sort of area, and then we were back and forth about whether the fitness should be like in a single spot or if it should be more like a park course where there's, you know, different little pull-up things, you know, as you go around. You could put bocce here. The person who said about a soccer field, that's actually not a bad idea right here, except for the ball. That would require some sort of fencing, which we're trying to avoid, I think. And then we put a bathroom here and a bathroom here. The view corridor for a bathroom right here might not be good, but if it's tucked up here, maybe it would be all right, and it would be out in the view corridor. Anybody have any questions?
Any major dissensions?
None. In fact, our thing looked so similar to Fran's, it was sort of eerie.
Okay. Steve's got the tape. He's got another one there for you, Rick.
I'm Steve Hawk. I'm with the Action Group. We want it all. So some of this was an exercise just to see how much we could fit in and still make it feel like there was room. And it turns out there's a lot of room based on the sizes we were given. So pretty much like most of the other people, we kept the current parking. We kept the half pipe where it is, or where it's going to be, with the skate park next to it, a pump track next to that, bathroom and showers, thinking that this, as someone just said, this is the surf skate area. It should probably all stay together. Then a nice big lawn area or perhaps natural landscaping. Then a playground with a climbing boulder. These are not to scale. The big thing I should point out is one idea we had was to put parking along this whole edge so that people don't have to park in one spot and then walk all the way down across to get to the park. Maybe diagonal parking. We know there's some concerns about the safety issues there, and maybe the county would deny that because people go so fast on Obispo Road. You can't be backing into Obispo Road. But if you're going to use it, give people access to it. Then for the where the manhole covers are, that's a good place, we thought, to put the basketball courts, the multi-use courts, a dog park. There's a presumption here that there would be kind of meandering paths throughout, so we didn't draw those in. We think there's plenty of room for that. You could also have a dog park. If you wanted to have a horseshoe and bocce together, some picnic areas, maybe another bathroom down here, and then, not me, but one man dreams of putting a derby-style skate run, another kind of skateboard thing up here, but as a strong advocate of skateboarding, even I think that might be overkill. But you could still, so if you take away the snake pit run, you could still have a nice buffer here between the preschool, and you could do natural landscaping. But even with all these, I mean, if the sizes we have are correct, it feels to us anyway like there's ample room for landscaping and beauty throughout, and you could still really use it. And this is an area that needs a lot of recreational facilities. And this, if we're going to do it, this is the spot to do it.
Okay.
That's the action team.
Okay, and the dirty skate area was the only dissension on your guys' team?
There was no dissension, we just said, sure, man.
Okay. Where's,
We took away the Olympic-sized pool.
what about a tremendous amount of work? We have left surveys on the table because we've never done this before, and we love feedback. Please tell us what you thought of the design, and that will feed our next several rounds of community input, because we're really, really into hearing from what you think, and you'll get more opportunities along the way. Let me hand off to David.
All right, I'll keep it short. It's almost 8 o'clock. Thank you for coming. You know, look forward to putting all the designs together and seeing where there's overlap. I think the key is the community voted for us to become a community services district from a sanitary district. There's a lot of money that went into that reorganization, and at the end of the day, the people that were behind that were needing some type of community park. I think this is our chance to show what that election was about and deliver on something for the community, for what we need, so that we can keep our kids busy and active instead of in their rooms on iPhones and everything else that goes with that. So the next meeting is huge in terms of putting this all together and putting all the directors to vote and, you know, in line with what the community wants. I feel like there's a lot of overlap, which people have provided. And so, you know, in the next month or two, we'll do that last meeting, and that's where all the directors need to be held accountable for, you know, for voting on a plan, which I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of skate park and some of the active rec things and even some of the other things that that people see and you know, and putting together that final plan that we could all be proud of. So thank you for coming. Have a good night.